In this lesson, we are going to take a look at how we can create local blocks in AutoCAD. A local block is one that is stored in the current drawing. If I choose the Insert command, local blocks appear in the drop-down list. To create a local block, we can go to the Home tab in the Block panel and select the Create button. You can also type B, then press Enter at your keyboard. Selecting the Create command will bring up the block definition dialog box, and my first step is to give this block a name. In this case, I will call it Bolt. Next, I'm going to pick a base point. So the block I'm going to create is going to be of the front view of this bolt. And when I choose my base point, I want to think about how I want to actually insert it. In this case, I want basically the bottom midpoint of the bolt so that I can snap it to these center points here. So I will select the bottom midpoint of the bolt head here. Next, I will specify my objects. So I'll choose the Select Objects button and choose the objects that comprise my bolt, then press Enter to bring back the dialog box. This section right here refers to what do we want AutoCAD to do with this original bolt that I drew out here. If I choose Retain, then it will continue to be just individual lines and arcs. If I choose Delete, then it will simply get rid of this one. It will still create the block definition for me though. Or I can choose Convert to Block. So it will create the block definition and it will actually convert this one into a block as well. Personally, I feel like this one gives me the most flexibility because I can always explode that one or erase it if I want to. Finally, on the right side, we can decide if we want to make this annotative and whether or not we want to allow users to explode it and if it should be scaled uniformly. Finally, I will click OK and the block definition has been created. I can now insert more copies of the bolt. So I'll select Insert. Bolt is now available in the drop-down list here since it has a local definition. I'll specify on screen where this is going to go and simply click to place my bolt. I can repeat and place additional copies, or I can copy the first one. I do want to point out that I drew the objects in specific layers, in this case object and center lines. So notice that as I brought them in, it retained those styles. Even if I were to select a bolt and choose a different layer such as hatching, all I've done is change the insertion point to the hatching layer. I did not change the object itself. So I'll select that and put that back into the object layer so there's no confusion there. If you want a block whose layer can be changed, you simply draw the geometry in the zero layer, which is what I've done with the top view of the bolt head here. So once more, I will create a new block. This time I'm going to name this one Bolt-Top. I'll select my base point as the center of the bolt head here. And for my geometry, this time I'm not going to pick the center lines, I'm just going to pick the outer two lines that were drawn in the zero layer. Then press Enter. I'll click OK to create the block. And now if I go to Insert a Block, we will now see that block in the drop-down list as well, since it has a local definition. I'll click OK. Notice that I'm in the object layer, so these come in on the object layer. If I set a different layer current, such as hatching, and insert another copy, then we will see that that block actually comes in on that specific layer. And like most objects, I can now select it and use the drop-down list to change it into the layer that I want, in this case, object. To recap, we use the Create Block command, or B at the keyboard, to create a new local block. If we want the objects to always stay in the same layer, we can draw them in those layers. If we want to have the flexibility to change the object's layers, then we will draw them in the zero layer. That concludes this lesson on creating local blocks in AutoCAD.